Good evening, everyone. Just like to welcome everyone to our third workshop in the four-part workshop series titled Introduction to Web Development. I just want to thank you all for making time tonight to come and learn how to win hackathons maybe in the future. So I think today we'll be touching upon the backend and we'll be building off from the last two series. In last week, we were building the front end where we were managing things like forms and state. Today, we'll be doing the server side, right? How do you manage data? And at the same time, how are we going to do a little bit of prompt engineering so that we can get Gemini to be able to return structured responses for us to use in the front end. So perhaps before we begin, let me just give a quick slideshow. Let's present. 1 second. All right. So welcome everyone once again. So we are titling this course called Blazing the Trail, Part 3, Backend. So just a little bit about me. I am Joshua Kong, otherwise known online as Done With Work. You can just search up the name. It appears for some reason. But I'm a year 2 Sem 1 software engineering student at Monash. I'm currently interning at Maxis as a software engineer, and I'm a Maxis scholar as well. So I've been a web developer for about 3 years, and I like to read books about startups. That's just some general information. So throughout this 4-part series, you'll be building something called Hackflow, which is a hackathon idea generator sort of website where you use Gemini to help you come up with winning hackathon ideas. That's basically the whole gist of this. So today we're going to be touching about the backend and some AI bits as well. And then in the next workshop, which we'll be having next week, Wednesday, we are going to deploy whatever we have learned on the internet. So stay tuned for that. So perhaps at this point, let's just take a very small group photo. So if you can turn on your cameras, that'll be awesome. All right. Yo, Joven, come, switch on your camera. All right. I mean, if you guys don't want, it's all right. Cool. Perhaps I'll just. Yeah, sure. All right. Okay, I'll just take a really quick one then. All right. Okay. Thanks, guys. All right. Okay. I think we can get started for today. So I'll just save this. All right. Okay. So let's get started for today. So I think I've shared a couple of links in the chat. So first off, let's go to GitHub for today. We're going to be pulling down the project for today. All right. Let me just share my screen. And so if you go to the link which I sent in chat, can you guys all see it? Yeah, it's the GitHub Nyala Labs Hackflow. Yeah. Can I just get a very basic response? Can everyone see this link over here? All right, cool, nice. So then so once you're in the GitHub repo, today we're going to be touching about workshop 3. So right now, if let's go ahead and click on this code drop down. And then you can see this thing called download zip. Can you guys just click on this? And then this will sort of download it to your laptop or computer and just open it up. So inside here, you see this folder. Let's just extract it up. Perhaps let's go to let's go to desktop and then let's just extract here. Perhaps I'll go into the folder instead. I'll add a new folder. Let's just call it workshop 3 for easier sake, and then we extract it here. Okay, so inside here, once you have extract here, is everyone able to extract the files? Hackflow main. Yeah. Is everyone all good? Yeah. Is everyone's all right? Then let's just enter into this folder and double click into workshop 3. So you can either open this up in VS Code or going down here and then clicking on your VS Code icon. Let me just bring it over. Okay, so once you have VS Code open, what you can do is just go to File, go to Open Folder, and then let's just find Workshop 3, the folder we created, add form name, and then Workshop 3. So let's select this. All right, okay, so that now we're in workshop 3. Let's go ahead and open up the terminal. So if you don't know how to do that, just click on File. Sorry, you can click on, sorry, not File. Go to Terminal here, and then New Terminal. Or what you can do for a shortcut is just Control Backtick. Backtick is right below your Escape. It's a button on your keyboard that will toggle the keyboard as well. Right, so once you have this, let's go into the start directory. So let's first type cd start. So basically going into this start folder, and then if you have hopefully everyone has Node.js installed. So up to this point, is everyone all right? Does everyone have Node.js installed at least? Yeah. Okay. If no responses, I assume everyone's good. All right. Okay. So once you guys are done with that, what you can do next is then let's install a package manager called pmpm, which is just another package manager to manage all your Node modules. So go ahead and write npm I pmpm-g. This would install the package manager pmpm, and then what you want to do next is then type pmpm I. This would install all of the Node modules in your start directory. All right, so once you have done this, let's just go ahead and write pm dev. So everyone here at this point, yeah. Perhaps can I just get a thumbs up or anything if everyone's good? Yeah. All right, cool, nice. All right, so then once that's done, let's just right click on this. You can click copy to copy the URL, or what I would like to do is click Control on your keyboard and then left click on the link. This would bring up the localhost on your browser. So give it some time to load. Beyond that, let's just close all the not basically stuff we don't need. All right, give it a moment. All right, yeah. Okay, so perhaps I'll just go through really quickly what we're doing today. So as you can see, we have already a landing page. This is built in our first workshop. And by the way, if you need access to the resources, you can join our WhatsApp group or just search up on Instagram, Nyala Labs and then you can join our WhatsApp group through the link tree. We provide all of our resources for the past workshops, workshop 1, workshop 2, and workshop 3, are all in our Google Drive folder. So just let me know if you ever need the link. Okay. So once you click on Get Started, it'll bring down to this very simple form. This we made it last week in our second workshop. And then today we're going to be working on getting that response through the server. Right. So yeah, let's get started. So first, let's go back to VS Code, right? And okay, give me a moment. Let's go to, okay, so what you want to do is you see this SRC folder, right? Okay, so right now, if let's say it's collapsed, right? You only see start. Let's click into start, go into this folder called SRC, go into routes, and then this thing called plus page.server.ts. Let's just click this open. Right. So inside, if you see, we already have some bits of code already written inside. So you can see that we have this thing called env, which is in SvelteKit, which is used to read environment variables. I'll be talking about this later on. We're also using the Google Gen AI library to help us interact with Gemini. We are using this thing called Zod, which is a sort of schema definer, which basically allows one to sort of define how your schema will look like and all of the types, right? And we also have this thing called we also have this thing called actions, right? So what are actions, right? So if you have studied a little bit about SvelteKit, or I guess in general just web development, think about it, right? What is the server essentially? It's just some bits of code that run on some backend somewhere, right? In that case, or some API that you would call. So this plus page.server.ts is basically that equivalent. We call them actions in Svelte, which are basically functions which you can call, or APIs which you can call on the client side or on your mobile or on in the piece of code that you send to the browser, basically to interact with all of the logic and or basically your database and getting information that's private. Right? So this is what actions are which and meant for in SvelteKit. So think of it like just like an API. That's it, right? A type safe API, right? So you can see already that we already have some bits of code, right? We have this form data component where it comes in the request body, right? So if you can read a bit about how the browsers and also how basically the protocol for managing requests and just HTTP responses and things like that. So what we're just doing is just grabbing this form data that we grab from the request body. We then take, sorry, not from the request body, but from the request itself. We then loop through each entry in form data, right? So basically what form data is just basically a key value pair of information. So how it might look like, for example, form data may contain an object that says, let's say, title, and then let's say just some value, right? What object.entries does is just basically sort of, you can think of it like looping through, basically, right? Converting this object into a usable data structure that we can use. So you can see that the type of data is of K string, and then it's a value entry, right? Basically just some bit of information. So let's just delete that. And then down here, what we do is then we first have to pass the data, right? So this is a very good rule of thumb. Never trust information that's coming from the client side, right? No matter the type of information, because you can easily swap in information. You can add things outside the definition of what you want. So what you should always do before you even use data is to parse them. That is why we have this thing called chat schema. So let me just open it up. So to open it up, all right, what you want to do on your keyboard is just click Control and then click left click on chat schema. This will open up a file called schema.ts, right? So you can see here we're using Zod to define all of our fields, right? So if we go back to the website, right, head flow, all the way down here, we see we have name, problem statement, duration, team, and team members, right? Coming back to the code, we can see we also have equally defined fields. So this is an advantage, right? And a very good thing, because just imagine if I use object.entries and I went through the entire form data, right? Let's say a hacker wants to intercept that, right? Wants to put some additional information, they can, right? And I decide to just chuck it all in the database, right? I would not have been able, I would have completely missed that had I not defined very tightly what I'm able to accept. So this is a very good practice that is used in both modern web development, and also when you're developing websites, web apps for both production and even enterprise level, right? And it just makes it a lot easier dealing with data, right, on your APIs and things like that. So yeah, this is all we have: a title, description, a duration, which is an enum of basically fixed durations. Again, we're not just accepting random numbers in, right? We have predefined constants which are already set, which means that if the user wants to even send other than within this different values of duration, the schema will fail automatically and it will reject the request, right? So this is just a little bit about how we sort of get data and then how do we validate it, right? So these are just some best practices, right? Okay, so coming down here, right, then we just check basically is it successful? If it's not, we just return some errors to the client. This part's all right. Okay, let me just one moment. All right. Okay, so maybe perhaps we can talk a bit about the prompt, right? So we go all the way down here, right? How we structure the prompt is pretty simple actually, right? So we just tell Gemini first what basically what is your task? That's the first line, very simple, right? And then we pass in all the variables through a sort of using these backticks, right? This allows me to pass in title, description, duration, team, and members. These are all taken from pass.data, right? So now down here is the little bit of magic that allows us to sort of coerce Gemini to giving us back structured data. So down here, in a very strong manner, I sort of force it to generate a JSON object only, passable with the following keys. So what you always want to do whenever you're telling AI to give you back something, always be very strict in terms of your response, right? So whatever you need is whatever you should ask for. Anything outside of that scope, you should not be asking for. In this case, right, we're just asking for these couple of things. So a pitch, a solution, tech stack, core features. And then we also go as far to sort of define the data type. In this case, right, a one-liner describing the idea. This is just a string, right? And then, or solution, or even tech stack. But we embed this within two square brackets. This indicates to Gemini, hey, I probably would like a list of items, right? And this is what we want for tech stack. So this is just basically the whole gist of this. Okay, so coming down here, this is where we're going to sort of call the AI model. But before that, right, might be thinking, Joshua, how are we gonna get you got free API key today? And my answer to that is yes, sort of, yeah. So let's just let me just bring this up on real quick. We're gonna be using Google AI Studio to give us an API key for Gemini 2.5 Flash, which is a free model which is accessible without credit card and stuff. A second. Okay, let me just bring this over here. All right. So perhaps I would paste this in the chat. One moment. Okay. Can everyone go to this link in the chat? Yeah. We're going to be using Google's AI Studio to get us an API key to make the request. All right. Up to this point, is everyone following along? Everyone understands at least. Today, we're not going to be coding that much, but rather understanding high-level concepts on basically how to make things work. So perhaps just a thumbs up, Randy. Everyone's good. Yeah. Yeah, very cool. Thank you. All right. Okay, is everyone here? If everyone's here, let's proceed then. Okay, so once you're in Google AI Studio, let's just, I think if not mistaken, you can click on Get API Key down here, right? So you can see mine is hidden. So what you want to do, once you sign in, dismiss, create API key. Just click this. And then you would have to create a new project. So go ahead and let's say create project. Just name your project anything. So in this case, it could be Hackflow, Workshop 3, whatever you like. Once that's done, right, go ahead and create your key. So perhaps for the sake of this project, let's just say I create another key. Let's just say, so create key. So once that's done, right, you can see that, hey, okay, Google has given us this API key. So what you want to do is just go ahead and then click copy API key, right? So it's copy API key, this one, the newer one that I created. In your case, there'll probably only be one. Does everyone follow along? Everyone's all good? Does everyone have their API key? Okay, cool, very cool. Okay, what you want to do next, let's just go back to the code. Let's open the side panel. And then in the folder start, right click and then create new file and say .env. So go ahead and then type API underscore key and then paste in your API key. So it's okay. Perhaps just a little word of advice also, never reveal your keys or any private information to people on the internet, right? So, and there's another very good tip as well. So normally what we use to distribute code is GitHub, right? And before you ever push your project, it's always, you must have this thing called a git ignore file. What is git ignore files, right? It just tells Git, right, your sort of your version manager, hey, ignore these things that are listed down inside. And you can see down here, I've explicitly told it to ignore the .env file. So this means, right, if I commit any changes to my GitHub repo, right, this .env won't be leaked across the entire internet. So I think we have seen cases like this. So never do this, right? Always make sure you have a git ignore file. Never show your private keys or any keys to strangers on the internet, right? So that's a pretty good tip. Okay, so is everyone following along? Everyone has their env file. Just yeah, just wanna everyone good? Yeah. All right, cool. If everyone's good, all right, let's just get back at it. Let's just close this git ignore. Let's go the way up here. Select this bit of code up to cons AI. And then what you want to do is click Control and then slash. That would sort of uncomment this whole thing. Right. And yeah, okay, that's about it. And then let's go all the way down here to step number 3. Right. So let's uncomment this as well. So we instantiate the sort of this Google Gen AI sort of factory that will allow us to use and communicate with Gemini. Right. Is everyone following along? Is everyone all good? All right. If yes, everyone's all good. Okay, yeah, thanks. Let's go ahead and try to call the AI model. So what we want to do, give me 1 second. System instructions. Okay, let's go all the way down here. Just select all of this and then control slash to uncomment this. Right. So we see we have this response, and we're using this model called Gemini 2.5 Flash, right? And we are able to pass this in called a system instruction. I'll talk about this very soon, right? But let's just go down here and then uncomment this and this as well. So basically here, we're just trying to grab back a response from the AI model. If there's no response, then we just basically say, okay, we tell the client that, okay, the action failed. If it's successful, then we basically just trim the JSON text that's get back. And here, let's uncomment this. One very unique thing that I think if you come across AI models, right, they love, especially if it's code, they love putting these backticks, this markdown language to sort of signify that the response is some sort of code, whether it be JavaScript, Python, or whatever. In this case, right, we have to use this start with function that JavaScript provides on a string method to be able to search for this pattern, these 3 backticks. And then what we're going to do is then replace this using a regular expression. And then we're going to replace it basically with nothing, right? And the reason why we're going to do this is because since we forced Gemini to sort of return us a JSON object, right? We want to be able to pass it. So that's what we do on the next line. We use JSON.pass JSON text, right? And we get back basically key value pairs again in a proper format. And then what we're going to do next is just to send this to the client. Then we can Control X, remove the last line from this one. Now, coming back to system instructions, let me just briefly explain. So in system instructions, we further sort of are able to tell the model or porous the model into what we want. So the output again is valid JSON. Again, you have to be very explicit into how you want Gemini to return your responses, right? Because first of all, right, if I simply do something called a no shot or one shot, where I just write perhaps no instructions or just one line of instruction to Gemini, what always happens is that you'll get back garbage or additional information that you don't need, which is a waste of time also. So I've been very explicit, no explanations, extra tests, or even any extra text. And and another thing is, what is your objective at the end of the response? What do you want the response to look like? So I tell it I must be able to use JSON.pass, right? This is very indicative because if I don't tell it to use JSON.pass, right, it might add in other pieces of text, which will cause this function to fail if I were to run it on the response of the AI. And then I tell it, okay, so team size, make sure, and these are just extra little features, right? So if everyone following along, that's great. So once we are done with this, this is basically the gist of the server action. And perhaps just repeat myself. First, we get the form data. We then ensure we validate it using the chat schema, which has already been written, right? Which looks like this. Then we ensure to instantiate the Google Gen AI client. We then extract out all the data. We write a structured prompt, and then we call the AI model. and then we just perform some additional manipulation of text before returning the response to the client. So is everyone following along so far? Just a thumbs up. Yeah. Today is not going to be coding a lot, but rather an introduction to how backend works. At the same time, how do you ensure when you have a time constraint, you got to force the AI model to give you what you want? Yes, is everyone all good? Yeah. Okay, I assume everyone's good. All right. Okay, so now this is where things get, now this is where we can uh, sort of test this out. So let's go ahead first, and then let's go into, okay, if you're in SRC in the corner here, open it, go into routes. So we can close the lid, go into routes, and then go into plus page.server, plus page.svelte, this one. So this will open up already a pre-written sort of landing page. We have already done this over the course of 2 workshops, right? So down here, you can see we already have this AI response, right? So if you go all the way up here again, you can see that we have this little error, was this form, right? It does not exist at the moment, right? So what we're going to do is just that we want to, okay, 1 second. If we take, so if you see AI response type, we already have a strongly typed response, right? Okay, so if we go, okay, so perhaps I'll just show how AI response looks like. Yeah, so it's just a very simple templating language where we sort of get the response, and then for each of the response, we then check if the associated value, or sorry, the associated properties inside the object, and then we do the same for the rest as well. All right, so if I go to plus page.server, plus page.svelte, let me just double check this, if method.post. Okay, one more. Let me just double check whether we need to write anything else. All right, okay. So perhaps we can actually we can write a little bit of code today. Let's just, okay, so let's head back into plus page.svelte, and then under the method field over here, just place your cursor here and then enter. We're going to use this thing called use enhance. So you might have to import this, if not mistaken. So what you want to do is use enhance. Okay, give me a second. Use enhance. All right, and then equal. We're going to say curly braces, and then another set of curly braces in here, and then an arrow. So just ensure get rid of this form, and then let's just press enter. So what this use enhance will do is basically, think about it, right? If let's just say my my browser doesn't have access to JavaScript, which is a very common occurrence, right? For example, a user might have JavaScript disabled, right? And you might have some fancy JavaScript that needs to kick in. But when the user does have JavaScript enabled, right, why not we be a little bit more fancy, right? We can do things like, oh, updating responses without having a full page refresh. This is what use enhance does. When JavaScript is enabled, it will run all of the code inside here, basically. So inside here, we just want to say, perhaps I'll just delete this back again. Start and click use enhance. Post, and then I'm going to say bracket, and then open a curly bracket. So first, we're going to say loading equals true. We have a loading state at the top. We then want to return an async of result. Right. So this result is coming back from our earlier plus page.server.ts because we are calling this endpoint. So notice here that it's called actions, right? So we're basically just calling the chat endpoint, which we saw over here, which is called chat. So we're just calling this, think of it like just an API, very native. And what we're going to do first is then check if the result dot type equals to success, right? You might be wondering, hey Joshua, how do you get, right? How do you manage to, when you do control space bar, then you know, oh, okay, wait, you get success, right? So this is the great thing about SvelteKit and actions in SvelteKit. If you remember from our earlier plus page.server.ts, we return a very rigid structure of types and of very rigid structure of variables, right? Success, response, and errors. And we do that across all responses. So even if it fails, right, success, errors, and responses are all returned, right? So from this, SvelteKit can infer the type of the response, right? So you can see here, it at least has some inkling and knowledge, which is called type inference, right? From this result. So what we can do with this then is then check also, and does the result have data on it? So this is just optional chaining as well. Response. Then we're going to set AI response. Okay, what is this AI response? This AI response, let's just go all the way up here. And let's just create let AI response equals state of AI response type, which is already importable, or null. And then we're going to initialize it as a null value in the first place. All right. And then I just save this. So this is how state is managed. So if you're a bit confused about this, you can go ahead and watch our workshop 1. So the way down here, let's just set AI response equals to result dot data. One more result dot data dot response as an AI response type. So now we are coercing this response as an AI response type. Else, we just want to say AI response equals to null. And then go ahead and save that. Okay, besides this, let's just go ahead up here. We can remove this data. We don't really need this. And let me just double check what's this for. Oh. Okay, for now, this should be all right. Okay, so let me just save this. So up to this point, does everyone understand at least what we're doing here? Is everyone all good? All right. Okay, if everyone's all good, let's go ahead and test this. Hopefully this works. All right, so go ahead, go back to the browser. All right, let's just refresh the page. Okay, give it some time. What we can do, since we just sort of did all this, let's just exit using Control C and then PM def again. All right, let me just restart. Click to open. All right. So perhaps while we wait, I just want to grab everyone's opinion. Like, how you guys doing so far with the workshop? Any thoughts, opinions, anything? Yeah. Yeah, today we have a much smaller crowd. I remember the first one, we had like 17 people. Okay, cool. Okay, so once we're done here, hopefully it works. So let's say great AI hackathon, right? Let's just say a nurse rostering system. And then duration, let's just say 48 hours. And let's just say AI and machine learning. Let's just say also there are 3 members. So they click generate idea. Hopefully we will see some form of response here. All right, give it a moment. Okay. This will take some time. It's a free API. Hopefully it works. Just double check. Fetch equally. Right, let's just see if this works. So is everyone able to, does everyone have a response here? Let me just double check if there's nothing wrong. Let me just inspect the page and see if there's anything. Undefined reading length. Let me just see. Oh, this is a different extension. If you go on the network, perhaps let's just try that again. This rostering, great AI hackathon. And then we just want to say a NERSC rostering system. Web development, let's just say 48 hours and 3. So if I generate, just give it a moment. All right, it seems we have some sort of response. Oh, okay, we do have a response. Okay, yeah. Perhaps let's just go back and check what's the issue. So if I go back down here, let me just see. I'm passing in the right data. Okay. Let me just refer back to the GitHub page real quick. AI response null and props. Fields equals all fields and AI response. Okay, perhaps we go down here and then we just, okay, yeah. So I forgot to change this over here. So if you go back to your page earlier, page.spell, let's just delete this, curly braces, and then type AI response. Right. So once that's done, we just basically passing in the entire AI response type into AI response. So let's just try that one more time. So once that's done, so let's just close this. So this is another essential skill, debugging as well, guys. Don't simply use LLMs all the time. All right. Hopefully this works. So NERSC rostering system. And then let's just say AI for we have 48 hours and then 3 members. Let's go ahead. Hopefully this works. There we go. All right. So yeah, just this little bug is still generating. But other than that, you can see here we have first our pitch. We have the text stack, which remember, which was a string array, a list of string. A list of strings essentially of all the text stacks that we're using. We have a very short description. We have core features and a team allocation as well. So front end, back end, and then other roles, AI, ML. So yeah, this is basically how to build a full stack web application using SvelteKit and a bit of Gemini. So I hopefully everyone has learned something for today. Right. So yeah, this is about it at this point. And perhaps if there is any questions or any queries or just any comments, right? Yeah, if you have ever got lost at any point, just refer back to the GitHub repo as well. Yeah. So does anyone have any questions? Or Abel, do you want to say anything? Yeah.
Yeah, I just came back. Everyone who joined, really grateful to Joshua for leading the third part of the workshop series here. Yeah, so we're going to have more exciting things after this. Every week, stay tuned. Join our WhatsApp chat if you haven't. We do our weekly workshops every week. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a great night.